So hi everyone, and happy Friday as always. My name is Dana, and today we're on our third session of our governance and automation series. And we have Lucas in with us again, and he'll be exploring Azure resources with Azure Resource Graph. So I'll hand over to you now.
Thank you, Dana. I would also like to welcome everyone to our series, Cloud Launch and Learn on Azure Governance and Automation. This is our third session, so we are halfway there. And today's really exciting topic, something that most people don't use, at least that's my experience. It's something that I learned while working with the clients, but it's something that can enable you really to get better usage of your Azure and all of your Azure resources. So just quick introduction. My name is Vukašin Terzic. I work as a cloud solution architect for a company that is based in Czech Republic. A few months back, I was also recognized as a Microsoft Azure MVP. And Azure architecture and governance is something that I do almost every day for our clients, and I'm glad that I'm able to share those favorite topics with you during those talks. If you want to get in touch with me, the best way to do it is to reach out to me on Twitter or LinkedIn. And if you have any extra questions after we finish this session, feel free to reach out and ask. I'm always here to help you with learning new things. Also, if you have any questions during today's talk, please write them down. If I notice the question, I'll try to answer it as we go. If not, then we will have more time in the end to answer some questions, and that will be the time when you can also unmute yourself and ask them. No need to type. So I have 0 slides for you for today. We'll be talking about technology, so I think the better way to talk about it is to actually show it while speaking about it. Oh, sorry, just quick switch here to something more visible. Okay, so I hope you're all excited because this is really something that I like to use. And so when we were talking about Azure governance in the last couple of sessions, and if you did not attend any of those sessions, we said that one of the issues in ungoverned and even in governed Azure environments is that users and admins can easily lose the track of resources they have there. And if you are in the large environment where multiple people are working on it, those resources start showing up every day, and you don't have any insights on like the information that you might need for you to keep track of everything and keep everything under control. So using a tool called Azure Resource Graph that you can find by going here and type Resource Graph, it's called here Resource Graph Explorer, allows us to discover and report on those Azure resources. We can perform really efficient resource exploration at scale across multiple subscriptions. We don't need to install any agent to do it. We can just perform the search, very complex search, and get the results we want. There is no other tool that allows us to use this so efficiently and so quickly. And so why is that good? Because we can keep track of resources, but also sometimes we need to find something, right? So you are looking for something specific, you need to find resource with specific property, for example, like a resource property. It can take ages to find that manually, and the search function will not give you like that specific information. So you can like put all the resources, then try to do, let's say, some filtering or something, but sometimes even that will not help you, and really Azure Resource Graph Explorer is something that's there for you, and it allows you to do that instantly. Another great use case or situation when you will end up using Azure Resource Graph Explorer is that when you work with the Azure Policies. So this allows you to predict which resources will be affected by the policy, and to list them prior, like before you actually do and change something. You can see what will be affected, and maybe you will like to filter out something. Maybe it's something that you don't want to have. So to have this info. More on that, and I will demonstrate that part during our next week's session when we will be talking only about Azure Policies. So, but it's very like useful and goes hand in hand with Azure Policies. I'm sure that you are familiar with the tools like Azure Resources. So it's Resource Explorer, I'm sorry. So this is one of the tools that's there from like a long time ago. And I'm mentioning this because there is like similar name, Resource Graph Explorer and Resource Explorer. But in the end, those are very different tools. So what this allows you is to list, like, let's say, all of your resources and resource providers. And you can see them in an organization that you currently have, and you can see the JSON file configuration of that resource. And that's great. This is really like useful for you to see how that JSON is configured, especially if you are trying to do some infrastructure as a code and so on. And then there is another tool called resourcesazure.com. This is very similar to Resource Explorer, but it also allows you to use a read-write option here and change something. Right. So this is not what the Azure Graph Explorer is about, and obviously these are like very different tools. So let me close that. Azure Resource Manager, ARM, the thing that is the portal based on, runs indexing in the back all the time. And if something's changed, it informs Resource Graph every time that change is made, and it happens immediately. And Azure Resource Graph Explorer is saving those things in a databases, which I will explain in a minute. But what this allows you to do is, not you, but what this allows Azure to do is to base things like Azure Search. So this Azure Search is actually using Azure Resource Graph, which is great because it shows you how the tool is fast and reliable. If you search for something like, I don't know, virtual machines, result is there immediately. If you search for something by name, again, result is there quickly, and you get all the information you need. So this is one way. Of course, you cannot make like a complex search query here from this field, but this tool is based on it. Another tool that is actually based on the Azure Resource Graph is All Resources tab. And this was not there before, or at least it was not there visible in this kind of way. And I find it that using this view only allows you to find out so much information that you were actually not available before, and people they were not available to you before, and people are actually not aware of that. So if you have an Azure subscription, feel free to go to All Resources, where if you have a lot of them, they will all be listed here. But what's good about this is that you can, of course, apply all the filters and try to find something that way. But what people don't realize are these two fields. So you can group things, let's say by subscription. I only have one here, so that's no difference. And you can create a summary view. And that summary view allows you to show a few different views. One of them is a map. So this can be, of course, useful if you want to see where your resources are, and suddenly if something shows up here, well, that's a problem because you want to keep your data in Europe. And also you can use different charts. So you can see that this is by location, different chart types, or a list. And again, you have a couple of visualizations here. So you have resource groups, device type, and subscription. And why am I showing this? Is because this exactly is what Azure Resource Graph is about, to give you this kind of information. And it doesn't have to be a chart like this. It can be a list and like a text value. And this exactly is actually running some query in the background and giving you the information. Here, you export it to CSV, which is great, or you can also open that query and find out what's going on the background. I'm not going to go into this now because this is now showing a query that we are not going to work with. Okay, so that was where else it was used. What also is different, is very important to understand here, is that you can see the connection here and deeper integration between Azure Resource Graph Explorer and Azure Resource Manager. And that's because Azure Resource Graph is using Azure Resource Manager API. Let me repeat that one more time. It's integrated directly with Azure Resource Manager and API. And that's a huge thing in terms of speed and operability. Other tools that we have and that we can use for these kinds of things don't have that access. Like if you use Azure CLI or Azure PowerShell, they don't have direct access to a CLI. They have to go to soft SDKs first and then work with that and then get the information. Have you tried using a listing, at least, like getting all the resources from a subscription where you have, I don't know, 100 virtual machines and thousands of resources? I did, and I kept trying to do that for years, and it works, of course. I use the tools that I'm familiar with, and it was okay. I was able to run the similar commands and like in PowerShell and to get those results back. But the worst part of it, it takes minutes to return all of it. You run it and then you have to wait forever until you get back information. And with Azure Resource Graph, you get the result instantly. And that's the power of it. So how you get there and how you start using it. Obviously, you start using it if you start searching here. You're already using it. So Resource Graph Explorer. Notice also that we have this. And this is the interface. It's a very simple interface. And when you come here for the first time, what you will find first is that if you click here, you have to type something. You have to, and this happens to all of the users, they come there and they figure out that they need to learn some sort of code to get your result. And Azure Resource Graph is relying on a Custo query language. And exactly this is the moment when most of the users I know, they actually close down this tab and they never come back. And so my goal for today is not to teach you the Custo query language, but to teach you how to use Azure Resource Graph interface, how to become familiar with using codes, code examples that you can find online, and show you how to figure like your first queries and some like basic structure, so you are not afraid of experimenting and using it. Great thing about it, this is like a read-only language. You are not changing anything with it. You are just like querying existing things. So the worst thing that can happen is that your query will not work, but you are not going to delete anything with it. And so I'm not gonna try to teach you Custo. That's gonna be like, that's not that easy. That can happen in 1 hour, but it's also not very difficult. So the Custo query language, and I don't see any reference here, but it's with K, starts with K. And if you are wondering what that, like where that name comes from, it's a reference to Jacques Cousteau, the French ocean explorer. So we are now here exploring clouds instead. And as I said, it's a read-only request languages. Basically, you ask for something and then it returns result. It can return plain text. And the syntax of Gusto query is like, it's easy to understand. When you see it, you immediately can deduct what is it doing. There is before in like log analytics, which is where I started using it. The difference here is that in resource graph, we save resources in a tables, in a databases. And when you want to query that, you have to work with this database structure. So the language is the same, just the referencing data is somewhere else than in log analytics. And here on the left, so we find this is the interface, right? So here on the left, we have those databases. We will be focusing on resources database mostly today, but you can see that we can here explore things like resource containers, which shows you subscription and resource group. So we can explore guest configurations, we can explore security resources, and so on and so on. And each of those databases contains like a massive list of virtual tables. And those tables are there for all resource providers. We don't necessarily need to be using them, but they're there and we can reference it. And if we are not using it, the result will be 0, but it's there. As you can see, if you click, it shows. So the interface here is like clickable. Also, it supports IntelliSense code completion. It's a multi-query interface, so we have a query here, and we can create a new one, and it will be added. We can save each of those queries to use them later. So you can save existing one. Of course, first of all, you need to run it. So if you want to see if it's working. So we are going, I mentioned that we are going to work with the resources. So if I delete this, I want to show clicking resources, then the next is to use pipe, and let's say summarize. And we want to summarize count, right? And run it, and this gives me the result. And this means that I have 40 resources in my demo subscription. I can see the details. Of course, no more details because we are showing just count. More on that later on. And now I can save this query. I can save as and give it a name. Description, and then I can decide if it's a private query or shared. Private will be saved just for me under my account. If it's a shared, then I can decide in which resource group to put it. And basically that will create a resource under the resource group, and it will be available for everyone who has access to that resource group. I can say, right, it will ask you to create resource graph queries, resource group for you. You don't have to do that. You can select one of your own and just click save. Right, that's how to save it. If you want to open it, that's even easier. You just go open a query, then you select if you want a private ones. All the private ones are shown here. If you go to shared, then you have to select. Well, you don't have to select. It will automatically give you all the resource groups in all subscription where you have access to. If you want to be more specific, then you can, of course, select one and then just filter it by that. And opening this query will automatically open it in here to show you the code. Another way to find queries in your subscription is to use resource graph here. And this shows the object, and those are the ones that are shared. You can see where they are saved. You can see some information. And the great thing about it is that you can edit them directly from here. You can open them in the Resource Graph Explorer, or you can open them directly like this, like an object. Also, great thing about using this view is that you can add tags here. You notice that when I was creating it, when I was saving it, I was not able to add tag. I can add tag from here. What are the tags? Why they are important? Well, we were talking about tags last week, so it will be good to go and watch that video. Right. So that's about the interface. I can use it. Back to our Source Explorer. So let's say I open one of those that are just all right. So just a quick intro here. You can see. Oh, let's go. Let's do the easier one. Right. You saw the result. It's just a count, and it gave me number 40. Right. I have some options here as well, but they don't work for this kind of result because this is just a simple number. Another good thing to see, check here, is that it took 0.0.3 seconds to deal with to get the results. Or I think those are minutes, so 0.3 seconds to find the result. And that's something that if you try to do that with PowerShell, it will take you probably like 10 or 20 seconds. And plus you have to type it and so on. It's going to be much, much slower. And here, this is like the instant thing you get back. Of course, we can do a little bit more advanced things here. So let's summarize count and do count by type, let's say. And now I get the count of different types of resources. And I know that I have 6 disks, 6 network interfaces, 4 virtual machines, and so on. And this is great information. This information can be, of course, filtered even more deeper. You can go and, I don't know, let's say add location, and run it like that. So you will see that it's now, okay, now it's summarizing in 2 ways. Maybe this is not something that you would like to do, but maybe you can order it. So let's say order by what we want to count. So it's going to show those with the top and show us the location. You can see that we are now working with some sorts of data, and it's giving us, and look, it took me only like 2 lines of code to get back this. If you want to get this by PowerShell, it will take you much more. And so now I have the information about something that I was interested in my subscription. And what I can do with that is first here in the results, I can download that as a CSV. And keep that somewhere as maybe a documentation. That's also a perfect way to create like documentation. Probably in documentation you will include things like the resource names and so on. But of course, this is just for like accounting part. Pin to dashboard. We'll come back to that in a second. Or I can show charts. And so because we grouped this by location, now you can see that in each location, this is West Europe, I have those different resource types. In this location, I have this. In this location, I have this. Maybe that's not a good chart that you want to see. We can maybe show this. Okay. It told me that the chart will not be visible because it's too many points, and this is better. Right. So if I go back here and say location, it's going to give me by location. And because that's something that can work on the map, then I can go back here and use the map. Right. I didn't use the label. Count by location. Right, so I would need to show the count and location. And now I messed up because it's not like this. Okay. So I don't want to make it confusing now. I didn't prepare those demos. This just goes as am I using it. So you saw that that I created some like different, pull out different information here, and I'm able to show that information in a different way, right? Before we go dig deeper in the let's say this query creating, what I would like to show you now is how else we can display this information. And right, so this query is going to give me the type of the resource. So I have all the resources where type is Microsoft Compute Virtual Machines. And I got this from actually going to the list of the tables and digging into resources, into compute, and finding the virtual machines. And then it's going to, so if you run only the part of it, like this, it's going to run the whole thing. It gives you, basically all the virtual machines. But if we run the whole thing now, what I added here is that I want to summarize count by this OS type. So it's going to give me a nice overview like this. And now I know that in my subscription, I have 4 Windows virtual machines and 2 of them are running Linux. That's very useful information if you ask me. Right, that can be showed as chart, like this or like this. And this is the total number. It's showing this is this percentage, this is this percentage, right? Showing this information here is of course useful, but what else you can do is that you can create a dashboard and you can pin this to dashboard. So let's do that right now. You just go here, click pin. Now you would select your dashboard. It can be a shared one or a private one. So I'm going to use a private, and I have one here which is completely empty. It's called OS Info. I'm going to pin that. What else we can find out? If anyone has any suggestions, you can type it. Okay, so let's say I want to find out, I don't know, public IP addresses. So where type is Microsoft. What type? What is it? Network. I remember some of those things, so I don't have to. So let's see if that works actually. Oh, this is tricky. Right, it works. And I want to again summarize it by count. I will do it a little bit differently this time. Count by right. So let's see if that works. Right. So I have a count and by property, which is the IP address name. So not actually really good example because I cannot have this IP address 2 times. Okay, so everywhere the count will be 1, but I just wanted to show how to work with the property. Right, so now I have this, and I like this view, let's say. I don't want to make it a chart because that's not usable for me. I want it in a text way, so I can pin this to dashboard, and I will pin it to exactly the same dashboard. And that's it. What else we can do? Let's show all the resources. So summarize, count by location. Okay, don't get scared, don't get scared. I'm going to come back to that. So now we have this, and we can see that it's ordered by the location with the most resources. It's showing the total number in each location, and it's showing me the location name and the number. Right, I like this, but I don't want to display it as in this way for me. So let's pin that to dashboard as well. Right. I think that's enough. Let's take a look at our dashboard now. So this is the wrong one. So this is my dashboard, and I pinned these things here. And of course, this is now in a raw format. I can go edit, and I can go shuffle that around, make this smaller if I need to, and put this up there. I don't like it this way. I will put this here and this here and save. And so now I have, and of course you can change the name here and everything. And now I have something that I didn't have before. And for me, this can be actually really useful. Maybe not like this information that I'm showing here, but if you want to keep track of your environment and show things, then using the dashboards, something that you're probably already doing in Azure. But getting this type of information just by trying to use those like things that you have here can be very limiting. You can like show some information, but not everything. And using the Custo and Resource Graph Explorer actually gives you option to create a very nice dashboard that can be customized. And the best part of it is that you can go and directly edit it from here, or you can, and you don't even have to save that. Actually, I didn't mention that. You don't even have to save that query. You can just run it, pin it to dashboard, and then close it and delete it, and it will stay here within the dashboard. That you can then later, of course, download, share even with someone else in the subscription, and so on. I have here one dashboard that it's created by Microsoft as a demo. It's called Resource Graph Explorer Sample Dashboard 01. You can find this on a GitHub if you search for that name. And this is actually a JSON file that you actually import here, but the results are based on the Azure Resource Graph. And you can see how powerful that is. And so basically, it starts very nicely, shows you total 40 resources by resource type, then compute inventory. You can see that you have Windows and Linux, machine family. Maybe those are things that you're not interested in, but it's very easy to go and edit this entire dashboard and replace those small things with something that you are more interested in. Azure storage, and so on. So I have those things empty because I don't have that many resources that are related. But you can see that though this is very nice and very useful dashboard. Maybe, let's see, maybe I have it somewhere opened, because I just downloaded it and installed it. Maybe I have a link actually, so you can. All right, I do have a link. I'm going to post that link in a chat here for all of you to download, or maybe even here first, so people in the video can see it. So this is it in the Azure samples. You can find it here, and now I'm going to paste that link in a chat. Oh, I'm sorry for the for the spooky whistling in the background. I cannot actually close the door enough here, so it goes through the door. Yeah, it is good in the night. It gets even worse. All right, so here's the link. I hope everyone can see it. And how that works, this is not going to give you the queries for the resource graph. Actually, you have to download this JSON file, and then just when you go back to your Azure, you say new dashboard, upload, and you actually upload that file. Right. And then you can, of course, edit this, completely change it. You can even clone this specific dashboard, and you want the dashboard. But we are not here today to learn all about dashboards, but creating one, like you just saw it here that I created, it took me a couple of minutes, and I already did create something that is useful and makes sense. Right. So to go back here to our resource, Graph Explorer. That's all, of course, about using the interface. Now we have to be able to write some queries, right? Because you don't want to just know how to use interface, but not actually know how to create a code or anything like that. Well, actually, you don't have to. You don't have to start with learning Custo first. What you can do is that you can use example queries. So some of them are here. I'm going to close this. Right below your query interface. Some of them are here visible, and you can open them directly. So the one I showed, oh, there is one, list all public IP addresses. Right. So I did that differently, but see, this is this is one way to do it. And so you can open it, and as I said, this is read-only. Even if you like paste some different code, the worst thing that can happen is that you are actually not going to get the result. And if you run it, right, you get the query. Good thing about it is that it's also commented, and those are the sample queries that are written by Microsoft. What I always suggest people to do is to go and search for Custo query samples. Okay, it's Custo. And first thing you will get is not that. It's not that. Sorry, it always returned the right link at the first search. Maybe like this. Oh, sorry about that. So yeah, so this is it. So Azure Graph Explorer samples, because Custo itself is used somewhere else. How do I change this to white? I can't. Sorry. So what you get here is the samples, and you have a starter and advanced. Can I change this interface to white? Yes, I can. Okay, now I should see it better. And this, in my opinion, this is more than enough to get you going, to get you some very interesting results that will intrigue you to start actually exploring and digging. And the best way to learn now is to actually go and find those. So let's see what we have here. List public, show resources that contain storage, count virtual machines by OS type, list resources sorted by name. Okay, so we have this. Here is our example, and you can easily copy that if you want. Go back here, delete this, and paste it. And what we are going to do is to actually get resources. It's going to project, which means like show name, type, and location, and it's going to order it ascending by name. Very easy. I think this is super simple to understand. And you can type like queries like this all day long without even thinking about it, because it's super intuitive, right? And you run the query and you get this. So it's sorted by name, and now you get all my resources sorted by name. And it took 0.6 seconds to return the result. Try doing that with PowerShell. I'll be coming back to PowerShell in a minute. Then let's see something else, maybe interesting. First 5 virtual machines, right? So that looks good. Resource, where the resource type is compute virtual machine. Show us name, properties, and the properties is storage profile, OS type. And top 5 sorted by name, right? I think I have 6, so it's good. It will only show first 5. Maybe we are just looking for the first 5, or maybe we are looking for resources in a specific resource group, so we can specify that here as well. Right. One thing maybe I didn't mention, this has access cross-subscription in the same tenant. The important thing is role-based access control. So basically it's dependent on where you as a user have access to. And if you are like only have access to a specific resource group, then whatever gets listed here will be actually returned from that resource group only. And this can be really frustrating for some users because they start using. I got a call from a customer saying that they don't get any results on the query I sent them. And the first thing I looked at is that under which user they are running it, and they find out that their user doesn't have any like access to the rest of the actually to the subscription at all, and they are not able to get it. Right. So I showed you how you can run the custom from here, from Portal, which is most of the time you will maybe run it like this if you are looking for it like once if you are looking for specific things. But if you are trying to do some automation and if you are like making this search as a part of a solution, what you can do is that you can easily integrate it with or actually run it by using different tools. And by those different tools, I'm talking about Azure PowerShell and Azure CLI. So as you saw it here in those examples, is that there is also a way to run it from PowerShell. And for that, what you need to do, and maybe that's written even somewhere here in the beginning, no, it's not. So to run it from PowerShell, you need to install the AZ Graph. You need to install the AZ Graph module. It's called Azure Resource Graph, and it's not part. If you downloaded a module Azure PowerShell or as AZ module, AZ Resource Graph, this module is not part of it. Okay, so you have to download and install this separately. This is the command, very easy, very intuitive. And once you get that, then you will get only one command. And that let's see if we can demo that. Right, so I believe that if I run PowerShell here, it should be already there. Oh no, I don't have. Okay, I'm not going to worry about creating some specific storage. Let's make it default, and so I can show you. I have that installed on my computer, so I cannot show you that. But basically, you just have to install the AZ module, which is this, and then you will get the only command to use, and that is. Did I lose? Yeah. And that is this: search AZ Graph query. And only thing you have to do is in these quotes put your entire query. It has to be, so you have to like think about if you are using like this type. Let me make that bigger. If you are using this type or this type, and of course, like in query, you will probably be using these, so you can put it inside of these quotes, or the opposite, both ways will work. Basically, here, copy your query, but in a way that it's in one line, like this. Put in and run it from PowerShell, and the result you get will be the same. So let's see, get module AZ. I don't have it, so hope you can see. I don't even know how to make this thing bigger. Install module, name series. It's going to install the module for me in the PowerShell. Hopefully that's just going to take a minute. And so why you would be using it from PowerShell? It's because that when you get the result, you can get that result much faster than by using just PowerShell, because of course in a PowerShell you can get a subscription and then get all the resources in that, or resources where the resource type is virtual machine. You can do the same thing in PowerShell. What I like to do here is say, and you can see that we only have one commandlet in our entire module, and now I can say search AZ graph. Oh, okay, not graph query, and paste my query. Okay, I didn't paste it properly. Sorry about that. I need to get this pasted as maybe I can do it from here. I don't have to type it again. Right, so this is it. And this will give me the same result as running this query did. And of course, if I go and save that into object, then I can work with this as with an object. And for me, that was completely mind-blowing when I learned that we can actually do this. And so now wherever I have to query something to get something from PowerShell, instead of that, I just use a Resource Graph Explorer and get these things much faster. You can also use the Azure CLI. For that, of course, in the Azure CLI, we don't have modules, we have extensions. So basically the same thing you have to do is to add extension, and that extension is called a resource-graph, I believe. And then running the query with that, it's just a matter of running this command. And again, this query is exactly the same as you would write it inside of the portal, it's one line. So I hope that was clear. I don't want to now go and install CLI here because the result will be exactly the same. Right, so important things. Don't be afraid, because this really is a powerful tool. It allows you to do so many things, to get so much information about your environment quickly, to keep track on the environment. You don't have to learn custom query language to be able to start exploring. I think that what I explored now or explained now, it's enough to show the interface itself, to show you the options, what you can do, download CSV, pin to dashboard, and save and open queries, all of that. Another important thing is that what I was looking for now is that you can from here already see those example queries. They are those example ones. more advanced ones. And don't be afraid to open them, to try to look into what they are doing, how they are doing it, and maybe like changing. That's how I started. Changing like small things, like for example, resource type, will allow you to do like get the big things, big results back, and that will encourage you to continue exploring as Jacques Cousteau and getting the things about your Azure environment. And that's really important, because I cannot imagine Azure work without being able to explore those things. Let's go back here. So started queries and advanced queries are all here. Okay, so I think that's all for this demo. Now we have questions. Let me take a look in our chat here. Do we really have any questions? Right, so from CJ, thank you for that. Sure, it's not. It's completely free. Creating dashboards is free. You can have as many dashboards as you want. Also, using Resource Graph is free. There are some limitations on how many queries you can run, so you cannot like overuse this in a way that you run like thousands and thousands of things at the same time. But it's not going to charge you extra. You are just going to get like a message saying that this query was not performed because you are over quota. Wait a few minutes and then it will like do it again and so on. So that's for the queries. For the limitation, and I don't know those numbers. I actually never tried to find out those numbers because it was never like very limiting for me, but it was for sure something that I noticed when I created like huge dashboards full of stuff. It didn't show me everything at once and I had to wait. In most cases, this is not a problem, like you are not following, or some use cases you probably would, but you are not like tracking some live information. Maybe you would. So it doesn't matter if the information is like 5 minutes old for you. You just have to find something and so on. But yeah, it's free. The dashboards are free, and using the Resource Graph Explorer is free. Okay, I really hope that I achieved my goal of encouraging you to start exploring and not get afraid by seeing this, because that's where all users stop, is when they see this blinking cursor here and they find out that they have to type something. And if you are not familiar with any other programming language, this can be terrifying to someone. But do not worry, there are queries that can just like open as simple as this, and then you can run it and you get all your tags and you can pin it, or at least see what's going on there. Okay. All right. That's all from me then. Then go back to the end. And I think Dana would like to tell you about Ideaton.
Thanks so much for that great presentation. And thanks everyone for tuning in. So just on the screen here, we have an Ideathon going on the 24th. So next Saturday, we'll be kicking off the Ideathon. And if you're interested in signing up, just working with a few other people from all companies on a real life business problem statement, please do look into that link, see if that's something you're interested in, and if you would like to sign up. So finally, we'd also really appreciate it if you could provide us with some feedback. So I'm going to post a ton of links here. So if you wanted to find some material shared by our speakers on our GitHub, there's the link there. And if you wanted to catch up on any of these previous sessions or this session in the future, we have our YouTube channel there where we post these videos up. And next Monday, so we have the third session in our Azure Fundamental series about core paths and database. And of course, we have Lucas back with us next Friday to talk about Azure Policy. And finally, we'd really appreciate it if you could provide us some feedback on the session. And it's a very short survey. It'll only take you less than a minute to fill out. And if anyone doesn't have any more questions, thank you all so much for coming, as always, and have a great weekend.
Thanks, everyone.